Good evening. I'm Beverly Irby from Texas A&M University, and I'd like to welcome you to our first general session. This particular session is our social justice speaker session, and it is sponsored by Texas A&M University, Indiana University, and Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. I'd like to welcome now to the podium Mark Gooden, our most recent, well, a few hours ago, our past president for UCEA.
Thank you, Beverly. Yes, I am the immediate past president. Welcome to the 28th Annual UCEA Convention, and also welcome to General Session 1. This year's theme, Righting Civil Wrongs, Education for Racial Justice and Human Rights, will present multiple opportunities to dialogue, congregate, think, and organize for a renewed vision and a purposeful coalition building for exploring the role of education and educational leadership in fostering action for racial justice and human rights. Education is essential for the exercise of all human rights, and I can think of no better goal than using it to secure justice, especially in light of our contemporary challenges. When we reflect on this year, we might recall the release of the U.S. Department of Ed and the U.S. Department of Justice's joint release of the Dear Colleague letter in January on non-discriminatory administration of school discipline. We might recall President Obama's launch of My Brother's Keeper initiative to build ladders of opportunity for boys and young men of color. Some of you might even recall the events that took place in Ferguson, Missouri at the end of the summer that resulted in school closures of that community. Again, the world waits as the decision of the grand jury, on the decision of the grand jury, and the community is held pensive. And some parents have wondered, will schools be closed again? You may even reflect on how you have already addressed these issues in your class or your respective research. Regardless of what comes to mind, surely it is apparent that education is related to democracy, citizenship, and addressing civil wrongs. And our work is relevant at all levels of educational, economic, and social systems. And if you are not there yet, I hope that by the convention's end, we can agree as educators that racial justice matters. So let me just take a moment to say thanks to this year's talented convention planning team for this powerful theme, their vision and hard work. Planning at the UCEA Annual Convention is an important but demanding undertaking. And President Noah Witherspoon Arnold, Sarah Dean, Michael Dumas, and Asade Osanlu have unremittingly engaged all of their mental and physical capacities over the last year to construct a relevant and thought-provoking program. So could we just acknowledge them just quickly? Thank you. I'm especially excited about this year's opening general session keynote speaker, Angela Valenzuela. So just to jump down and very quickly bring this to a close, as I said before, as UCEA's 53rd president, I want to say it is my true pleasure to officially welcome you to this year's convention. It is my sincere hope that you enjoy your time here in Washington, D.C., and that you are truly transformed and reinvigorated to make changes in your respective locales. We are in for an intellectually exhilarating convention, filled with wonderful opportunities to network with old colleagues and make new friends, share research and new ideas, and collectively and purposely prepare for action that makes a positive difference. Please take advantage of all this year's convention has to offer. And again, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Now I'd like to ask Michelle Young, our Executive Director, to come to the podium.
Thank you, Beverly, and good evening, everybody. We're really delighted to have you here and look forward to a great convention. Each year, the convention provides a unique opportunity for us to engage with the broader community of scholars focused on educational leadership, preparation, practice, and policy, to showcase research and development and efforts, to exchange ideas and new models for preparation, and to interact with colleagues who share a commitment to high-quality research, evaluation, and positive impact. This year we kicked off the convention 2014 with a Day on the Hill, sponsored by the Politics of Education and UCEA. 200 faculty and doctoral students and practitioners spent the day holding research-based conversations with legislators, members of IES and the U.S. Department of Education, and other professional leaders. And tonight we will hear from one of the country's most respected policy advocates. It's a good start for the convention this year. UCEA's mission, which is to promote excellence in leadership preparation, research, and practice for the benefit of all students, is critical to the future of public education in the U.S. and beyond. And events like the Day on the Hill and gatherings like this position us all to make a significant impact and a contribution to the students and the people who serve them. UCEA has had a very long history of supporting quality preparation and research, and this conference and your contributions to it are critical to continuing that legacy. And perhaps at no other time in our nation's history have educational leaders been under such critical and intense pressure. And meetings like this remind us that we not only have the obligation to provide leadership and quality research and preparation, but we also have the capacity. Over the next few days, I hope you have many opportunities to learn and expand your network of colleagues and have some fun. We are purposefully meeting this year in Washington, D.C. at the same time as ASH, and I encourage you to attend a few of the jointly sponsored sessions this week. Now, there are a number of organizations and individuals who are deserving of recognition and gratitude for their support of UCEA and this convention and its initiatives, including those of you who've served as reviewers, who are serving as chairs of different sessions, our exhibitors, our award sponsors, keynote speaker sponsors, event sponsors, and our convention host, Howard University. The convention planners, as Mark has already said, have done an absolutely fabulous job, as have the UCEA staff members, and I hope that you'll take every opportunity to thank them and let them know that you appreciate their work. I will close with a sincere wish for all of you to have a meaningful convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Now I'd like to welcome to the podium our 54th UCEA president, Nicole Witherspoon Arnold.
It's Noelle. My sister's name is Nicole, actually. It's a phenomenon that always happens. It's okay. I just want to welcome everybody, and I know that Mark has already introduced the convention planning team, but I want to have them stand and just say a little bit more about them. We have Azadeh Osanlu. She's an endowed associate professor at New Mexico State University. We have my colleague, Sarah Deem, who's an assistant professor at the University of Missouri-Columbia. And we have Michael Dumas, who is an assistant professor at New York University, soon to be at Berkeley in January. So, I just wanted you to get a look at them. I couldn't have asked for better critical scholars who had the same type of vision, that really wanted to sort of push the envelope on some things for the convention. And they are tremendous scholars and really good friends of mine. So thank you guys so much. One of the milestones that's happened with this convention is that we actually have over 1,000 attendees, which has broken a record. And so, we'd love to say it was us, but it might be the venue. But this is great for UCA and the organization, and just to see the impact that we're having on the field, and all of the things we were able to do the other day during Day on the Hill. Also, one of the things we're super proud of is all of the graduate students that are here, and I'm gonna ask you to stand so that we can recognize you and just welcome you to this convention. As you can see, it's almost the whole room. It's amazing. And just the Graduate Student Association and the Graduate Student Summit. This has also broken records for the number of professors as well who have brought so many students to the convention. So I will stop talking. I do invite you to the ASH UCEA joint sessions. There's a reception tomorrow evening, and there's also a joint panel that will occur on Saturday. And so lastly, if you look at your badges, I want to recognize Julio Salgado. He is an activist scholar, and he created this logo specifically for us. Google him and see some of his wonderful works. The lady with her fist in the air, that's me. And, and so we actually just really thought that this design fit this program so well. And so even though he couldn't be here with us, we do want to acknowledge him. So have a great rest of the convention, and we're so glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Noelle. Now I would like to ask Sarah Deem, who was, again, part of our convention planning committee from the University of Missouri, to come forward to introduce our speaker.
All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. So welcome, everyone. It's truly an honor to be able to introduce our speaker for the 2014 UCEA Convention General Opening Session, Dr. Angela Valenzuela. Angela Valenzuela is a professor and program chair in the Education Policy and Planning Program within the Department of Educational Administration at the University of Texas at Austin, where she also serves as the director of the University of Texas Center for Education Policy. Dr. Valenzuela also has campus affiliations with the Center for Mexican American Studies and the Cultural Studies and Education program within the Department of Curriculum and Instruction and the College of Education. Dr. Valenzuela currently serves as the director of the National Latino Education Research and Policy Project, called NELREP, that builds on existing grassroots efforts in order to develop critically conscious teachers while establishing pathways into teaching through its Grow Your Own Latina Teacher Education Institute's initiative. A Stanford University graduate, Dr. Valenzuela's previous teaching positions were in sociology at Rice University in Houston, Texas, as well as a visiting scholar at the Center for Mexican American Studies at the University of Houston. She is the author of Leaving Children Behind, How Texas-Style Accountability Fails Latino Youth, and Subtractive Schooling, U.S. Mexican Youth and the Politics of Caring, which won the AERA Outstanding Book Award, the American Educational Studies Association Critics' Choice Award, and received honorable mention from the Gustavus Myers Outstanding Book Awards. A recent Fulbright scholar, Dr. Valenzuela spent her 2007-2008 academic year in Mexico, where she taught in the College of Law at the University of Guanajuato and conducted research in areas of immigration, human rights, and binational relations. She's also been a Sissy McDaniel Parker and Haskew Fellow, an AERA Fellow, and has received a number of additional awards, way too many to mention here today, during her academic tenure that have recognized her scholarship, teaching, and service to the community. Dr. Valenzuela's research and teaching interests are in the sociology of education, minority youth in schools, education policy, immigration and education, and urban education reform. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Angela Valenzuela.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Sarah, and thank you for the audience for your interest in wanting to hear what I'll be sharing with you today. Thanks to Liba Pitts and the UCEA Executive Board, Michelle Young, Dr. Mark Gooden, Dr. Noelle Arnold, Dr. Beverly Irby, the 2014 Convention Planning Committee, and the UCEA Consortium. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. I really like the title of the conference, Righting Civil Wrongs, Education for Racial Justice and human rights. It is a title that reflects clearly what we should all be attending to, and that is very much perpetually always in the news, maybe a little bit more so these days. Mention was made, important mention of Michael Brown and the grand jury decision. There's important decision-making there by our communities there, and we'll see what the reaction, the fallout is from that. Today may be, while we're here in this convening, there'll be an executive order by President Obama on deferred action. If you hadn't heard, maybe if someone could just signal, it'd be kind of awesome to know that Obama's on. Okay? All right? Yeah. So what the executive order will do is that, my understanding is that it will grant deferred action to undocumented parents of children of American citizens, because a lot of undocumented parents have children that are U.S. born, and they're citizens, and so this will extend that opportunity of deferred action so that they can work, right, so they can be gainfully employed. We'll see what happens when the next Congress comes in. They're obviously not happy about any move of this sort on the part of our president. So, but I think it's really nice that this action will work toward building and continuing to build the constituency that we need for just immigration reform policies. Mention was made just now of the Texas Center for Education Policy. It's been a very busy week for me, and just very happily busy with some really wonderful developments. And one of those is the inaugural Texas Center for Education Policy seminar at the Texas State Capitol. It was held this Tuesday. And what was really awesome about that seminar was that it was me together with 3 doctoral students. I think one is here. Wei Ling, where are you? I think Wei Ling and then others. There you are, back there. And we presented in the members' lounge at the Texas House of Representatives, and we were able to talk to a statewide audience about accountability and what we've been able to pull together in anticipation of the upcoming legislative session. There is a lot of reason to be hopeful that we can make some significant changes in accountability, and as the director of the Policy Center and someone who's been involved in policy, what we want to do is begin helping frame the actual discussion. And so we have a number of proposals, and so much of this comes out of years and years of work in this area of accountability. I'd actually would like to move on to other policy areas. There's other policy areas that I care a lot about, but I think that what I've learned, I mean, this is the theory in the flesh, right, to use the Chicana feminist epistemological term, the theory in the flesh that you just, the theoretical frameworks that you gain from doing the work, from walking the walk, and what you realize is that what makes a difference is really not this episodic parachuting in, right, to lobby here or to educate here or to weigh in or testify, but it's really the prolonged engagement that stands to reap dividends. And it's hard for people to do that if they even know that's something that they should do, simply because of the time commitment, the emotional commitment. It's very draining. It's very exhausting kind of work. But then you get sort of hit between the eyes, and you see this injustice here and this injustice there, and it's your, this time it's your kid or it's your niece or it's some kid that's just getting their rights rejected left and right, and you realize, oh, well, that's why we're here. That's why I'm in the game, and I'm not in it alone, right? We're part of a community. Those of us that have been involved in it, and we need a lot more people in policy. A lot more people. Not everybody needs to be in policy, but we do need more. And I'm talking about not just people with a degree and or a resume that says they have a background in policy, but people that are willing to be engaged in actual legislative agendas and issues, and who have an understanding of policy that I think is more nuanced than most textbook treatments, which is that policies have long lives, right? They have long lives. Policy isn't it's not a noun, it's not a statute, it's not a law. I mean, policies are people, ultimately. I mean, these aren't from God, right? This whole accountability framework that we have doesn't come from Moses, right? Or God. I mean, Moses didn't come down from the mountain with this idea of high-stakes testing and this whole system of rewards and punishments, but rather these are policies that are designed by people, right? And it's interesting that we in the academy, we have our frameworks that are very much about either looking down, that is, from the ivory tower into schools, into communities, into neighborhoods. But we don't have a lot of frameworks that look up, right? That study privilege, that look up at very important, powerful decision-making places like the Texas State Legislature or our city councils or our state boards of education. We don't have those kinds of lenses or frameworks, unfortunately, and it's interesting to think that we don't have them because then we become in effect complicit in our own demise, because we never identify by name who the gatekeepers are to our happiness, to our freedom, to our liberty. So any methodology that also imparts that kind of insight is a methodology, in my opinion, that is very much worth pursuing. We call that critical policy analysis, in case you're wondering. So accountability is something that, because you develop a sort of street cred, right? I mean, once you're like in the conversation, in the debate, you're a known quantity, and you kind of have to, you put yourself over time, particularly if at the University of Texas and you have a PhD and you're a professor and you have students and you have research and you have a full agenda and it's like long-term and ongoing, you position yourself over time because of all of that investment, all of that work as being an authoritative voice on these matters. And it's frankly hard to go around you at some point because you're so rooted in the struggle, and that really is a good place to be, right? I've been, in some sense, I've been fighting this fight, easily since, the early 1990s when I was doing research for my book in subtractive schooling that y'all have been reading there at UT San Antonio, right? And I signed a lot of books just now. and that was where, I wasn't even studying testing, but it was unavoidable when I came across and realized, wow, I'm kind of like interested in these other things having to do with assimilation and acculturation, because those are my theoretical kinds of questions that I brought with me to this context, right? It was very, very interesting context to do this research. But then there was all this other stuff on the side that was getting in the way, and it was unavoidable. You couldn't not see it, right? It was something that was very determining of a lot of the marginalizing of children and the curriculum that I saw even then. We're talking about 1993, right? We're talking about a ways back. And so in Texas, we've known about the toxicity of this system since its earliest days. And of course, we've gone through quite a number of generations from, just the earliest gasps were, if you read Linda McNeil's book, The Contradictions of Reform, we saw the tabs became the teams, became the TOS, became the TOCs, and now we're at STAR. Yay, STAR, right? And now y'all have Common Core. Awesome, right? It's just wonderful. And so, I think that when you follow these movements over time and you're connected to the longevity of that struggle, you know when you know the landscape, and you know when you have a chance to make a change. And we're in that moment right now. And so keep your eyes on Texas, okay? What we have is a lot of disaffection from the current accountability system, because we have overreach. It's predictable, right? There's overreach, and so we had a 2009 legislature that overreached in the area of testing, and it has, and again, these agendas have deeper roots. So we're not only talking about a bill, we're talking about a process, we're talking about a verb, and they have roots, and they get planted in code. And when you're not even looking, and all of a sudden it flowers into like this pernicious system with teeth and harmful effects, and of course all kinds of profits for the private sector. And so what we're seeing is that because of overreach in '09 and now more recently in 2011 and the pushback in 2012, superintendents now are weighing in. And they're a mixed bag, okay? And some of you are very familiar with this community. And they're like any community. They're a mixed bag. And so some of them are, I mean, truly, they have this moral sense, a righteous, just sense that this is a system that has gone far askew, and they want to change it. And they're like many of us in the room. They want to change it. And then there's others that they actually don't want to be accountable for our Black and Latino poor children. They actually would prefer to abolish the whole system, not for the right reasons, but really because they don't want to be accountable. And then you have those in between, right? Those that don't like the idea that now they have to pay for the supplemental services because of the $5.4 billion budget cut in the Texas State Legislature, and so now that it's going to cost them and they have to pay for it out of their coffers, it's not convenient anymore as a system, even if at one point it provided them with some an instrument of control, a way to make high stakes decisions on the part of staff in their purview. So in 2012, what we had was Robert Scott make his his famous or infamous statement, former Commissioner of Education, that the system that we have in place right now is a perversion of what it was supposed to have been, and that was the shot fired, heard around the world and posted on Diane Ravitch's blog, and it's like, wow, for the Commissioner of Education in Texas to say that is significant, and it is. And then we have in 2012 the 800 plus districts. We have close to 1,100 districts in the state of Texas. We're mostly a rural state, okay, but we don't think about Texas sometimes in those ways. But it's a very large state, and 800 of those districts, a big number, they filed and passed resolutions against high stakes testing. I mean, they're against this stuff. Again, this is the reaction to overreach, now having to pay for supplemental services, at one point 15 end of course exams, 45 testing days out of the school year out of 180, and that was just the tests and not the retests. So there were a lot of bad stuff that was that had been legislated that now people are they finally are reacting, and they want to see real changes. So, I mean, all of that is really good and real good context. We also have a movement among these high-performing districts called the Texas High-Performing Schools Consortium, and they were established 2 sessions ago. We meet every other session, so 5 years ago in Senate Bill 1556, they were a group of districts that wanted to develop alternatives to the current high-stakes testing system. So this wasn't parents or teachers or Angela Valenzuela or Linda McNeil saying we have to, really make some significant changes in this system. But in fact, it was the High Performing Schools Consortium within the state of Texas created by this legislation. That legislation, last session in 2013, it actually made it out of the Senate and out of the House. That's no small thing, okay? Without with unanimity, and no dissenting votes, to the governor's desk, Governor Perry's desk, and Governor Perry vetoed it, right? And so they're gonna, I'm sure they're filing again right now. Since a couple of weeks ago, there's filing of all kinds of legislation currently, and I'm sure they're filing again, and we'll have a different governor. I mean, we have Governor Greg Abbott now, and so we'll see. There's possibility that that legislation will pass. And this is a consortium. This is a consortium of 23 districts in the state of Texas, and I understand they have 77 affiliate districts now. So that's, so I mean, this is a movement. This is a movement by the superintendents. All of these things add up to a movement. We also know what's happening at the national level, right? We know that there's a very very broad movement, widespread in so many of our states that's very fierce against Common Core and the tests in particular that are associated with them. And so we have this opening. We actually do have this really great opening to make these changes in accountability. And so what we talked about on Tuesday were what we think, based on our research, our studies, what we think the options are that are available to us as a community. And so this was the audience to address. And we did have the chairman of public education, staff person there, 2 staff people there, actually, from that office and then from other offices. But primarily it was Save Texas Schools. It was our Mothers Against Drunk Testing group, otherwise called TAMSA, and it was our opt-out groups, Interfaith, Texas Federation of Teachers. It was a really good cross-section of organizations that are like wanting to sink their teeth into possible legislation that would result in significant changes to the system that we have now, similarly intuiting like ourselves that there's an opening, right? So, yeah. Did someone say something? I'm in an aquarium right now because I'm like all congested, and so like stuff just happens. I thought I heard somebody shout out something. That's cool. That's awesome. So, yeah. So what of course, those of us who've been involved in this struggle have been critical about these testings. What we have been concerned about is that these tests are used to make these narrow indicators are used to make very, very high stakes decisions that are consequential to kids, like retaining them in grade, like promoting them, like graduating them, not graduating them, like attaching high stakes consequences to districts that we know then creates this cycle of not only reductionist test-driven curricula, but these behaviors on the part of administrators and teachers to teach to the test, to test to the test, to narrow curriculum to only those items that they think are going to be in the test, to just excessive focus to where our children are literally dispirited. Our teachers are dispirited from schools. And you know what? They already were. I mean, we already had a retention problem in our public school systems. We already had a dropout problem in our public school system. And now that we've layered that tawdry legacy that's very much circumscribed by race and class and gender, what we see now is that we have this system that becomes yet another layer of oppression. We have objectified children. We treat them like objects, like they're reducible to a number on a piece of paper. Not that they weren't already objectified, okay? They already were objectified. We have historically treated our children that are Latino, Mexicano, that are African American, that are poor, that are from other cultures and communities as secondhand citizens. As children that are not worthy of us building an educational practice around them. So, why take on high stakes testing? Really, because we have to remove that layer, right? And at least we remove that excuse so that that why these kids aren't either learning or getting taught, so then that we can deal with the deeper issue. So it's very strategic, and it's been strategic, and plus it's racist. It's been racist. I mean, it is statistically impossible on any of these norm reference standardized tests, whether it's the ACT or the SAT, for Mexican Americans or African Americans as a community to ever outperform Anglos or Asian Americans. It is a statistical impossibility. That's why these tests should never be I'm in individual cases, of course, in certain programs, you can get those scores up and make a difference. But there are these patterns that exist that are really predetermined on the basis of the psychometrics of the development of the tests themselves. That's why even the test makers say that you should never go to the Pearson website, go to the McGraw-Hill website. You should never use these tests as the sole or primary determinant in making a decision that is of any significant consequence to a child's life. This is what the test makers are saying. And there is no organization of any educational standing or repute that, that refutes this, and in fact just completely denounces tests being used in these ways. So we've had a lot of shifts to Texas in Texas to testing, but we really haven't dealt with the fundamental high stakes measure of it. So what we're advocating for, and I'll be very quick here, I wanted to share some other things that we're working on in Austin with you. But what we're looking at is developing a system where we would either significantly reduce or eliminate the high stakes testing. Again, this is not Angela Valenzuela calling the shots on this. We're part of a conversation. It's a community that's part of a conversation at the statewide level on this. And so we're talking about considering perhaps going back to pre-ESEA or pre-NCLB ESEA standards, which is never what Texas followed, but if you were following federal guidelines prior to NCLB, you tested once in elementary, once in middle school, and once in high school, right? And it was, and it was just to check the temperature from the federal level at that point. I mean, you don't have to do a blood transfusion to know the health of the human body, right? All you need is a sample. And so there is that idea of sample testing that has currency in Texas right now. I mean, there's a conversation about that, and maybe having census testing as an idea, like I just mentioned, at elementary, middle, and high school level, and maybe at the other levels having sample testing. So you would follow a framework similar to the NAEP, but sort of gauge the temperature, right? There are other proposals out there. I think some at least talk of them, nefarious ones, I believe, that really are about eliminating it completely, eliminating these tests completely. And the problem with that is that we actually need the information that we get from them to be able to leverage arguments against the inequities in our public school systems. And MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, a civil rights legal organization, has very, very successfully in the state of Texas been able to use this data and win every case that they bring before the courts so far, at least at the lower court levels, to illustrate in the clearest of ways that, in particular, our English learners, our special education children, our African American Latino youth are disparately, systematically, chronically impacted by the effects of this system and the underfunding of public education. So, we're not wanting to throw away the baby with the bathwater, but we do need less testing. We do need less testing, and we need to consider other options. There's also a currency right now. Dr. Julian Vasquez-Heilig has been talking about community-based accountability. People like this idea of local control, which, I get a little antsy with that word, that phrase of local control, just because it harkens back to the states' rights arguments for segregation, right, and segregated schools. For me, I'm older than a lot of you, but that it has that resonance for me. But I'm good with the idea that we should also have an opportunity in our system to measure those things that we actually value, right? So, for example, in the Austin Independent School District, we have a dual language program in the district, and we have 60-plus schools in the district that are dual language programs. Well, why can't we be measured and in a way that really helps us and provides us with the information that's standardized from year to year, and provides information to people interested in what we're trying to accomplish in the district, because it's something that we actually value, right? It's something that, and it could be a model and a framework for other districts that also want to move in that direction. And so that, there's all kinds of reasons. I would think that, what we could do is create a system, and this is what we talked about on Tuesday, a system that distinguishes between discretionary and non-discretionary indicators. So there's some things that you cannot, you have to report on them. You can't cherry pick your indicators, right, on some measures. So you could have these non-discretionary indicators where it might consist, in my head, you'd have the test score and minimally, access to quality teaching by teachers that are certified in teaching in their subjects. What's wrong with that? Why can't we make that a default indicator, since we know that teacher or teaching quality is the most predictive in-school factor that we actually have a control. We actually have some say-so over. We have some, through policy, we can actually effectuate change. I mean, why not that, right? So, this is evolving, and it's not going to fix everything. And I'm not even suggesting that. I'm not suggesting ending testing. What I'm suggesting is that there has to be changes in these ways. We have to address the toxicity in the current system. The other part of it is, what happens in the classroom? We have a de facto curriculum that is high-stakes driven, right? I mean, that's actually what's being addressed and followed in our schools. I mean, as if that were a curriculum, right? And so I'm working now with the Austin Independent School District and some other districts in really thinking about this and developing legislation. We're not there yet, but it's promising right now. Developing legislation that would, for a consortium, this is not the 28-24 consortium of districts, but this is an idea of creating a consortium of high schools at this point within a district, okay? A consortium of high schools within a district that will eliminate high-stakes testing and that will implement a pilot. It would be an alternative that would consist of project-based assessment modeled after the New York Performing Schools Consortium. If you've read Debbie Meyer's stuff, if you read her work, other people have written on the New York Performance Standards Consortium schools. They're very impressive schools, and they've been doing this for years, and they administer one test, and it is high stakes for them. And their students, they graduate, and at least the non-ELL ones, they do go on to college, and up to the tune of 90% of their kids, of their graduates. I mean, and if you visit those schools that are part of the small schools movement that really took hold in the 1990s, they are implementing a performance-based assessment system. Kentucky is wanting to make changes. They're not going at the legislative level, but it's like 4 districts, maybe down to 3 now. But Kentucky is also checking out the New York Performance Standards Consortium schools with the idea of implementing a performance-based assessment system. Kentucky has very deep roots in portfolio-based assessment. And that's another alternative. It's formative, it's authentic, it's really building on curricula that is based on children's life experiences, things that they care about, that have deep meaning for them, that it's no surprise that the students are engaged. They're excited to be researching things that matter to them, right? I was at the Urban Academy a couple of months ago in New York, and I was with the principal, Ann Cook, and this African-American young boy, 11th grader, walked by us, and so Ann asked him, so what are you working on? And did introductions, and he was a really nice young man, and he said, well, I'm researching housing policy in this area, and he mentioned the area, and that he was able to find some unspent money for low-income families. Right, and so then it became a conversation. Well, what should we do? Should we have a convening either with De Blasio's office here at Urban, or should we, like try and set up a meeting in the governor's office? I mean, so it became that kind of problem solving, so that this young man could exercise his agency based on his research and on his learning to draw down some monies for low-income families. And so I asked him, I said, well, what got you interested? I mean, I teach in policy, and there's a lot of students that come to us as graduate students, and there's nothing wrong with it at all, but it's just a little bit surprising to find anyone at the high school level who's focused on policy, much less housing policy, right? I mean, that's like very involved. And so I asked him, I said, so what got you involved in interested in housing policy? And he says, well, that's where I live, right? So that was the power of that curriculum, and they do offer assessments, and they do have validity. They have the graders of a grader system, so they bring in these outside graders, and they give them tests, the tests that they've administered to the students, and the materials that they've developed throughout the year, years worth of work, and then that's also a formative assessment process. The students in those schools, they do something that would be akin to a doctoral defense what we have at the doctoral defense level. They have to defend their work in areas that correspond to the 4 or 5 subject areas that are required for them to pass at the state level in New York. The same as most of our states, right? It would be mathematics, social studies, science, and language arts. Some of the consortium schools have a 5th test. There's 23 of those schools, almost all of them in New York City. That's a really good model. There's years of research on this, and so what we envision is getting relief from the testing system. And should the bill become law, I mean, we kind of piggyback on the 2824 movement. I mean, that'll have a new bill number, but we'll piggyback on that effort and those voices that are calling for changes. And if the bill becomes law, then we would ask the Commissioner of Education, Michael Williams, to request a waiver from the federal testing requirements for Marnie Duncan, right? So that would be kind of how. So wish us luck, light a few candles, because a lot has to happen. Our community has to get engaged. This is not, again, this is a community conversation. We're talking to Interfaith, we're talking to Education Austin, which is our TSTA, as it is our NEA and our TFT affiliates. And, with the idea of creating a learning community, and you just can't eliminate tests, and you can't just even implement a project-based assessment, but teachers need professional development. We need time. We need to reinvent this system from the inside out. Presumably we'll have testing, testing dollars now that we can draw from in order to perhaps divert, what do I know, divert to professional development, so that we can begin to create a model. So it's not just it's not just narrow the stakes, which is important and necessary. It's not just doing that, but it's actually like bringing the best of what we know as researchers, and forming a collaborative learning community with the Austin Independent School District that's ready to go, right? They're all over it. And working with our grassroots groups, our interfaith communities, so that we can develop a model with an interim report, with an evaluation, so that we can see how we can reinvent ourselves. And so that's it's not just, revert to what it was before, as if what it was before was so great, right? We know it was very problematic in ways that I've already discussed. We need a movement. We need a social movement in public education, and we have it. There's movements everywhere. There's a lot happening. And in the room there on Tuesday was a group that was assembled that's very much about organizing, and we've had marches, and we've done a lot of things in Texas for quite some time now, and we know exactly who the obstacles are to our happiness, and we know them by name, and we call them out by name, and I think they've been neutralized. So that's it's a new horizon, and so I think it's very, very possible that we will make some significant changes in the state of Texas, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't go all the way to a deregulatory, an unregulated kind of framework, because then the only way that legally you can address the inequities within that kind of system that's completely deregulated is on a case-by-case basis. And I think that is part of the teeth that some on the right want to take away from the civil rights groups in this contentious battle over school finance, but also high-stakes testing. At the local level, I'm just really happy to be part of a local grassroots community effort. Talking about mobilizing and trying to recreate ourselves from the inside out, but in a way that really is anchored in community and cultural histories, and that really honors and respects the ways of knowing, the heritage of our communities is what we are currently working on, working with Brenda Rubio, and we just came back from a meeting last night, and I'll just, I just wanted to share this with you, because I'm really moved by last night, what happened last night, and then we can open up to Q&A. But what we have at the grassroots, at the community-based level, is a three-way partnership, and it's it's moved very quickly. Sometimes certain things, you keep working and working and working, and then it's like, someone lights a match and, it's like, fire, right? And that's why you have to keep working, because you just never exactly know when that spark is going to just ignite the passions and bring everyone together. And it's really been a beautiful experience that we've had. But the partnership is with the Austin Independent School District, the City of Austin, specifically a community institution called the M.I.S. Barrientos Mexican American Culture Center. And if you've ever been there to Austin, it's located on Town Lake on River Drive, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful site that itself is the outcome of a 30-year struggle by the Latino arts community in Austin. And so in that space, we're wanting to create a Saturday Academy, and we do inaugurate, thankfully, on January 10th. You're all invited. You're all welcome to come. And it'll be on January 10th. We'll have pan dulce, chocolate, and tamales, and we'll have ceremony. We're going to have ceremony. So we're going to have give me RSVP to me, okay? Because got to order enough tamales here. But no, but you're all welcome. You're all welcome. I feel like we've just been. It's been fishes and loaves for us. It truly has been fishes and loaves, and that's when you realize that the real wealth that exists in your community and in resources when there's great leadership, such as there is at the Austin Independent School District currently, with our Chief Academic Officer of Instruction, Pauline Dow, who is helping us to underwrite, at least for a semester. We have a new superintendent coming in, so we'll see. We'll try and make this as hardwired as possible so that we can't be turned down in the future. But what it's really a confluence of folks coming together. A lot of us. I swear, it's not just me. Okay, it's a lot of us. But it's the Tejano Monument curriculum initiative that came out of the Tejano Monument. Tejano means Texan, Mexican Texan, but even not that. It's like people that date their ancestry all the way back to the Spanish colonial period, right? And so there's that very strong identification among many in Texas with the land. And so it's these very, very old names, some old money that wanted representation on the Texas Capitol grounds at the Capitol. And there's a beautiful monument there that it's really a statuary, and you have the explorador, the explorer, the vaquero, the cowboy with the steer, and you've got, or steers, and then you've got the family, the colonial family, the father, the mother, and the little boy playing with the goat, and the girl with the lamb. It's very pastoral, very idyllic. How many have raise your hands if you've seen the Tejano Monument? You haven't seen it. Hey, you're from San Antonio? You haven't seen the Tejano Monument? It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's just really beautiful. You got to go see it. And so our curriculum comes out of that. So all this is organic, right? All of this is in the roots. And I do want to tell you that roots are important because policies have roots. Policies have identities. People have roots, and people have inheritances and heritages that come from those roots. And those are what inspire, right? Because those connect to authentic expressions of culture and self and identity, and that's so massively important. And it's so what the children are deprived of in our public school system. It's the opposite in our public school system. So we're not at all apologists for the public school system at all. We're very critical, but this is our way of reforming it. And so we're developing curriculum. We're preparing teachers to teach this curriculum that right now emphasizes civil rights, local history, and immigration and migration. We intend to expand to indigenous heritage, the cultural arts, and women, Latina women. It's already been tested in the 3-week dual language summer program with great success. The kids, they go to the Capitol, and it's like mostly little white and Latino kids, and the first thing they see, we're talking about little 4th and 5th graders, the first thing they see is the statuary. So this is their first time ever to the Capitol, and they see a statuary, right? And then they start going to the other parts of the Capitol, and they check out the cannons, right, and the guns and the horses and the men, and the kids start asking questions, and they say, well, where's the women, right, and where's the children, where's the family? And it's actually nowhere else on the Capitol, so they're able to begin to get a sense of those structured silences, those systematic kinds of omissions that aren't by accident, but actually are very much by design. Then they go inside the Capitol and it doesn't get any worse. It doesn't get any better, it gets worse. And they're in the Capitol Rotunda, and it's all these white people, their images on the wall, right? This is about race, right? This whole conference is about race and stuff, and white privilege. And so, okay, so I'm talking about race and white privilege, okay? And these little kids, it's so uncomplicated for them. I mean, we have so much to learn from children because, little kids are saying, the little white kids telling the little Mexican kids, oh, I feel sorry for you. It's like you're not, Mexicans aren't here, right? It's like that's simple to them. They're not here. I like that symbol. That was a great symbol. They're not here. Where are they? That's how you feel, right? It's like a distance, right? It's a distance far away. And you just feel like you're drowning sometimes in the system that's just so dismissive of your identity, your past, your cultural heritage. So anyway, all of that is to say that we have this curriculum that now is being taught or is available for teaching in the Austin Independent School District in grades 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 11. Thank you for. Thank you. You can applaud. I saw you. And what's really humbling about all of that, what's really, really humbling is that here we are. I am in policy, right? And there's no policy edict that could have ever, made that kind of change. There's no policy edict. But when you have great leadership, you shouldn't need policies to do the right thing, right? And when you have community capacity, we developed a vision statement last night, and I wanted to share with you, just to make one final point that is how I want to conclude my talk, is that the vision statement that we collectively arrived at was this: to honor our community's cultural heritage, social justice consciousness, and reclaim our collective identities in pursuit of educational freedom. So educational freedom is very important and foundational to a civil rights agenda. Sometimes we think it's out there that we have to fight these battles, but really the darker, the more lurking and profound systemic culprit is probably where you are located in an institutional academic hierarchy or in a K-12 public schooling context. That's probably where we really have the most atrocious kinds of ideologies that every day are about robbing children of their identities and their cultures and their languages. And it robs it, and sometimes it robs them in sometimes the most subtlest of ways by and through countervailing ideologies like individualism and individual merit and meritocracy, right? That really divert the vision in another direction with the idea of children not being more in society, but having more, right? And that is a very bankrupt definition of freedom. It is not what we seek in our cultural community efforts. We decry the technicist, scientistic, objectivist frameworks, terms, concepts, knowledge that is harmful and is toxic. And yet we live these terms, and we especially, I think, live these terms and concepts in policy, right? And we don't question them. And it's important to assert, and you really understand this if you're involved and you're engaged at a deep level with community, that achievement, I mean, we treat it like it's the Holy Grail when our communities, when what we want is not achievement, we want a legacy, right? We want something that's much deeper than that achievement. The dropout rate, the technicist discourses that we have around accountability and ratings, and I mean, all of that is not inspiring, and if anything, is part of a matrix of terms and concepts that are part and parcel to the logics of domination. And so I hope to have inspired you with not only a sense of what we might can do in the area of assessment and accountability, but also for us to be self-critical and to really think about the terms that we ourselves use that perhaps unbeknownst to us actually diminish us in our power and our potential, when I firmly believe that we can achieve all of the changes that we want if we so desire, if in concert with community and with a social justice agenda. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that wonderful and thought-provoking speech. Now, we would like to welcome the Queen Bees, who will be performing after a short introduction.
All right, good evening, everybody. When I say lead, you say with heart. Lead. Oh, come on. Lead. When I say create, you say change. Create. Create. Lead. Create. Awesome. Okay, my name is Monique, and I am the Director of Education for a nonprofit in Southeast Washington, D.C. called Living Classrooms. Living Classrooms is an educational nonprofit that focuses on workforce development, leadership programming, and environmental education. At Living Classrooms, we believe in teenagers. We believe that teenagers have potential. We believe that teenagers have the potential to use their own voices to create change in their own communities. Because we believe in the power of teenagers, we created a very special program called the Living Classroom Queen Bees. The Queen Bees is leadership through hip hop for teenage girls. How does this work? We have groups of girls that meet 2 Saturdays a month. They talk about issues that affect them with mentors. So it's peer pressure, violence in relationships, how to be a leader as a woman, stereotyping. After they've talked about these issues and thought about them, they write some really, really awesome rap lyrics. We take them to the studio, they record it, and then they make a really awesome video, which is on the Living Classrooms YouTube page. So the Queen Bees takes mentoring, hip hop, and music. Why did we choose hip hop? Because sometimes it's not really fun to talk about self-respect, and it's not really fun to talk about bullying, but it is pretty cool to rap about it. So, it works to create these videos, but what really happens when we have the Queen Bees program is that we change perspectives. The girls see themselves as leaders, and the community sees the girls as leaders. It also creates backbone. Our next song that's going to drop in December is called Love Don't Punch. It talks about violence in relationships. Our girls are courageous, they really stepped up. It also creates forward momentum and optimism, which is exactly what young girls need in order to succeed. They understand that if you sit down and talk about an obstacle, you can overcome it. But most importantly, it gives the girls a voice, and it shows them that their voice is valued and powerful. Now, the Queen Bees write all their own lyrics, and they're awesome. But there is one lyric that constantly reverberates in my head. Venom, that's her stage name, and you're going to meet her shortly, she said, "I don't come from the streets, I come from my heart." To me, that's very powerful, a strong sense of self. That's exactly what we strive for with the Living Classrooms Queen Bees. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored, very pleased, and very excited to present the Queen Bees to you tonight. So please, make some noise for the Queen Bees.
I look like Ducky. Laugh at me to be funny, but I am smart, not a dummy. Come and show you my lace. I'm black and I'm proud. That's what I wanna be to you. I'm loud, but I'm really proud. Then I'm float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I'm more than what you see, so don't judge me. People really trying to be like me. A dark chocolate baby, so appreciate me. What you looking at? What you looking at me? My name is Brianna, but they call me Young Bree. What you looking at me? What you looking at? You looking at me? What you looking at? You looking at me? Looking at me? Looking at me? What you looking at? You looking at me? What you looking at? You looking at me? What you looking at? You looking at me? Looking at me? Looking at me?
It's funny how there's people that they talk about. Satan's coming out their mouth, but never let the truth out. They look through my beauty and try to say things judgmental. That's not okay. My face, my clothes, my hair. All you gotta worry about my looks and what I wear. Cause I'm me being me, let's face it. I'm beautiful, I know it. Let's not mistake it.
Look at me, I'm more than what you see. I'm cute, but I don't have time for dispute. You can't judge me by my face or my race. If you do, then you're way out of place. You think since I'm a girl, I'm not smart. Just wait until I stop me going real far.
Let's hear it again for the Queen Bees. Woo! Okay. Well, that was excellent. Thank you so much. This has been a very inspiring general session, first general session with Angela and with the Queen Bees this evening. Yes. Well, we would really like to thank you all for coming to our first general session, and also to go out to our reception just outside the doors. And I'm sure that Angela will be around to answer some questions or have a conversation with you. And enjoy your evening. Thank you.